So meal 2, we're going to start working on our chicken fried steaks. We're going to take 1 piece of meat. We're going to make 4 chicken fried steaks with it. And then we're going to save the rest for our steak sandwiches in our next meal. So this meal is chicken fried steaks. We're going to make mashed potatoes. I'm going to make a sausage cream gravy. We're going to serve it with green beans and biscuits. All right, so I'm going to cut a chunk of this off. This is a piece of London broil. It was $11. You can also buy tri-tip, flat iron steaks, whatever type of meat you want. You can also buy these cube steaks, the inside round, already prepared and marinated and all that. But since we're doing 2 different meals, I just went ahead and got it like this. We're going to take this like this in half. We're going to save this nice middle piece for our steak sandwiches. While we're pounding out our chicken fried steaks, we're going to just make our own homemade buttermilk. We're just going to take a little bit of milk. I put 3/4 cup of milk in there and just under a tablespoon of vinegar. The ratio is 1 tablespoon of white vinegar per 1 cup of milk. We're only doing 4 chicken fried steaks, so I think 3/4 cup of milk is fine. We're going to let that sit for 5 minutes. It's going to start to thicken, and we're going to have homemade buttermilk. So now I'm just going to get our nice portions of meat here, marinating for meal 4, and then I'm going to show you how to pound out the steaks into the chicken fried steaks. So we're just going to lay plastic down onto the cutting board. Pound them out. I'm going to pound mine on both sides. I'm going to get one side good and done, and I'm going to take the plastic off, flip them over, and then relay the plastic on and do the other side. If you don't have a meat tenderizer, you will have to buy one, or you'll just have to buy the cube steaks that are already pounded out in the meat section of the grocer. So we've got our chicken fried steaks pounded out, so we're just going to start soaking them into our buttermilk here, and we're going to let those sit for about 30 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to get our biscuit gravy, our sausage gravy on, and we're going to start cooking that, our mashed potatoes, and then we'll bread these, and we'll get them frying and get our biscuits in the oven. So now we're going to start our sausage gravy. Put a whole pound. Sometimes I make the gravy, I just do a half pound. But since we're using it for our chicken fried steak meal and our biscuits and gravy for tomorrow night, I'm going to go ahead and do a pound. You may have some extra, but I don't think a half pound would be enough. But for our weekend morning breakfasts, I just do half pound. That way you can save a half pound for another time. Or you can make a half pound with sausage gravy for one meal, and the other half of the pound I portion up sausage patties, and then we have just like eggs and sausage patties. So anyway, we're going to season this up with just a little bit of salt and pepper and some poultry seasoning. You should have some left from bin 2 when we made the pot pie. We are not going to strain this. We're going to keep the grease in there when we make our gravy. So we're browning this off. Then we're going to make our roux. We're going to add in chicken stock, the same thing as the Alfredo. I like to add some chicken stock in so that you're not adding so much dairy into this. And not that the milk has as much fat as like cream or anything, but it's just the amount of dairy. So I like to add in some chicken stock instead of all milk. So I'm going to do that as well. And while the sausage is browning, I'm going to get our potatoes on to cook. So I've got my 4 potatoes washed, diced up, skin on. I'm going to get those on to boil here. The sausage is getting brown. I'm going to start busting it up into smaller pieces. I'm going to start making my roux. And then I'm going to start it simmering. All right, so we got our gravy on to simmer. We got our potatoes on, almost ready to be mashed. We've got our chicken fried steaks breaded. We're gonna pop the biscuits in to the oven before we start frying our chicken fried steaks. I just cooked the biscuits according to the package directions. Okay, so I've got a can of green beans. I'm going to get those on the stove to boil. I'm going to start breading our chicken fried steaks here. I got the deep fryer on, ready to start frying. So you can cook these in a shallow pan if you like. I'm actually going to just pop mine in the deep fryer just to get them all done at one time. I'm going to bread them up. I'm going to do flour, egg, flour. Now when we did our chicken tenders, we did flour, egg, breadcrumb. Usually whenever you say something country fried, that leads you to believe that it's going to be flour, egg, and then flour again. That gives it more of a country type breading. So I'm going to season the flour up a bit with some salt and pepper. Remember, we pounded salt and pepper into our meat. So the meat has been sitting there and getting cinderized from the buttermilk and then seasoned with the salt and pepper that we added earlier. So, but I do want to make sure that we're getting our breading seasoned as well. You can even add in, you know, some Cajun seasoning, paprika, any other type of fun stuff you'd like to add into this. I'm just keeping it basic because this meal is quite intricate the way it is. Don't need to add any more to it. Keep it simple, right? That's just 2 eggs whipped up. I'm gonna lay them out in the pan. When they're all done, I'm gonna toss them in the deep fryer. Got our chicken fried steaks breaded, so we're gonna drop them in the deep fryer. All right, so we just finished up our chicken fried steak meal. Don't forget, save 4 biscuits for tomorrow night's dinner. And then our sausage gravy, we're going to use some of that gravy. Half of the gravy is for tomorrow night's dinner. So here we have chicken fried steaks, mashed potatoes, green beans, biscuits, and homemade sausage gravy.